I'm Elena Cruz, 38, and I've carved my path on my own terms. As CEO of Cruz Dynamics, a software development firm based in Denver, I've transformed my childhood determination into a thriving business. Growing up in Colorado Springs, where my mom worked double shifts as a paramedic and my dad labored at his steel plant until his fingers were raw, I learned early that nothing worth having comes easy. Losing my younger sister, Mia, at 15 in a tragic accident shattered me, but it also ignited a relentless drive. I earned a full scholarship to MIT, coding deep into the night, surviving on coffee and willpower. Alongside 2 college friends, I launched Cruz Dynamics in a tiny shared apartment. Today, we're a trusted partner for national retailers and tech startups alike. But I've stayed grounded. Weekend hikes in the Rockies, blasting alternative rock, and steering clear of anything that feels fake, especially in love. That's why the glass of red wine that splattered across my blouse stung so much more than the stain it left. I stood in the grand dining room of the Sullivan estate in Boulder, my crisp, white shirt ruined, as Margaret Sullivan sneered, "There, I've cleansed you of that small-town grime." Her words hit deeper than the wine burning my skin. I'd come to announce my engagement to her son, Derek, 40, believing I'd found someone genuine. But Derek's cold, derisive laugh echoed mockingly through the room, crushing every ounce of hope I held. My carefully selected outfit, my neat bun, everything meant to mark this moment, felt like a costume worn by a fool. I wiped my face, heart racing, and locked eyes with Margaret's smug glare. Derek stood beside her, still chuckling, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. Thomas Sullivan, Derek's father and CEO of Sullivan Manufacturing, our key supplier, looked stunned, but said nothing. I'd kept my role as CEO of Cruz Dynamics hidden from Derek and his family, to see their true colors. Now, I saw them clearly. "I am terminating our contract with Sullivan Manufacturing," I said, my voice steady despite the ache. Margaret's smirk faded, Derek's jaw dropped, and Thomas's eyes widened. He knew our contracts kept his business afloat. "You can't," Margaret protested, but I cut her off. "I'm Elena Cruz, CEO of Cruz Dynamics. We've been your largest client." The room fell silent, and clarity surged through me. This wasn't just about wine or insults. It was about respect, trust, and the life I fought to build. I turned and walked out, leaving their shocked whispers behind, my heels clicking on the polished floor. Marriage had never been my plan. My life in Denver is full, leading Cruz Dynamics, scaling the Rockies on weekends, and unwinding with good music and books. My parents, still in Colorado Springs, taught me the value of hard work over fairy tales. Mom's endless paramedic shifts and Dad's steel-stained hands showed me what it truly takes to survive. Mia's death at 15 sealed it for me. Life is too short for anything less than genuine. I poured my grief into code, built my company from scratch, and found peace in my independence. Love always felt like a distraction I wasn't ready for. So when Thomas Sullivan, CEO of Sullivan Manufacturing, called me last autumn, I was skeptical. "Elena, I want you to meet someone," he said, his voice warm but firm. Thomas and I had collaborated for nearly 10 years. My firm's software solutions had helped stabilize his family business through some rough patches. I trusted his judgment, but I wondered if this was some kind of setup. "He's special?" Thomas pressed. Curiosity won out, and I agreed to meet his son Derek, 40, for coffee. Derek was charming with an easy grin and a natural way of talking about Boulder's craft brewery scene. Polite, attentive, seemingly authentic, though I caught glimpses of something else. Maybe a youthful restlessness in the way he checked his phone. He was the youngest of 3 siblings, with 2 older sisters, and had nearly tied the knot twice before but never quite did. I appreciated his honesty about that, and when he asked to see me again, I said yes. For the first time in a long while, I wondered if love could find a place in my life. A month later, Derek proposed. It happened suddenly, over dinner at a cozy neighborhood bistro, his eyes nervous but hopeful. "I think we could be great together, Elena," he said. My heart pounded. Not from romance, but from the risk I was taking. I hadn't told him I was CEO of Cruise Dynamics. I wanted him to see me as Elena, not a title. Maybe that was my mistake. I said yes, believing we could grow together, though a quiet unease lingered, a shadow I couldn't quite shake. Derek's charm carried us through early dates, but cracks soon appeared. On our third date, at a trendy Denver gastropub, he wore a worn denim jacket that made him look younger than 40. I swapped my usual blazer for jeans, trying to match his vibe. We laughed like teenagers, but his remarks began to sting. "You must love this place," he said with a smirk, sipping his IPA. "Bet it's fancier than you're used to." I forced a smile. He had no idea I'd closed a deal here just last week over the same duck fries he raved about. I let it slide, not wanting to embarrass him, but the pattern worsened. At a riverfront cafe, he noticed my leather tote, a custom piece from a local artisan, sleek and practical. "You should get a real bag," he said, half joking, half condescending. I bit back the urge to snap. That bag cost more than his watch, a modest timepiece he proudly wore, expecting me to be impressed. "It's nice," I said, deflecting, but his assumption that I couldn't afford better gnawed at me. I started noticing his dependence on his mother, Margaret. "Mum says you've got a good heart but need to step up your style," he'd laugh. Calling her mum at 40 felt like he was still tethered to her approval. I brushed it off, reminding myself of his kindness, like when he'd surprise me with my favorite espresso. But the unease grew stronger. Was I ignoring red flags just because I wanted to believe? I'd built Cruise Dynamics by trusting my instincts, yet here I was, doubting myself. Still, I told myself 3 dates weren't enough to decide. I'd give it time, hoping Derek's heart would outshine his flaws. By our 5th date, I was wrestling with growing doubts. We met at a busy hotel buffet in Denver, the kind of place I'd usually visit for client lunches, not romance. Derek loaded his plate with steak, shrimp, pasta, more food than anyone could reasonably eat. "You sure you can finish all that?" I teased, half joking but thinking of the waste. He laughed loudly. "Elena, don't sound so broke. I can toss whatever I don't eat." My stomach twisted. This wasn't about money. It was about the disregard, the assumption I was petty for caring. His words echoed the influence of his mother. "Mum says you might just be after our family's money," Derek blurted, stabbing at his pasta. I didn't want to upset him, but the word "ma," uttered like a child's pleading, made my skin crawl. I'd spent years building Cruise Dynamics, outpacing companies like his father's, yet he saw me as some gold digger. I swallowed my anger. "Let's just enjoy dinner," I said, voice tight. Driving me home afterward, Derek reached for my hand as I stepped out. "Elena, marry me. Not now, but soon." "I'll wait." His eyes were sincere, and despite everything, a part of me softened. It glimpsed his kindness, his thoughtfulness and apologies. Maybe he could change. "Let's work on this together," I said, tears prickling my eyes. "We both have flaws, but we can talk through them." He nodded, relief washing over his face. For a moment, hope flickered inside me. I wanted to believe love could smooth out the rough edges, but deep down, I wondered if I was trying to fix something already broken. Derek's proposal lingered in my mind until his next words shattered the moment. "You'll need to quit your job, Elena," he said, grinning as if it were obvious. "Mum says a wife's place is at home, learning from her." My blood boiled. I'd built Cruise Dynamics from nothing, my pride in life's work, and he thought I'd just toss it away? "If that's how you feel, Derek, there's no wedding," I snapped, slamming his car door. I stormed into my Denver apartment, heart pounding with anger and disbelief. Over the weekend, Derek texted relentlessly, begging to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. He was waiting at our usual coffee shop, looking like a scolded child. "I'm sorry, Elena," he said quietly. "My friend said I needed to set rules early." If you felt the weight of every choice and the fire of quiet strength in Elena's journey so far, don't miss what comes next. Subscribe now and walk with her as she takes on the challenges that will change everything. They were right. I was a fool. Derek's sudden sincerity chipped away at the walls I'd built around my heart. I remembered my parents' words from Colorado Springs. Love takes work, Alina. Don't give up so easily. Don't pull that again, I said, half smiling despite myself. We're engaged now. Let's act like partners. His face lit up, promising to do better. A month later, we planned to meet his family in Boulder and announce our engagement. I was nervous but dared to hope. Thomas had always been kind when we'd met professionally, and I assumed Margaret, his wife, would be gracious too. Derek seemed uneasy that morning, fidgeting as we drove up to their sprawling estate. About Mom, he started, then trailed off. I braced myself, expecting typical mother-in-law tension. I'd heard Margaret was particular, but I believed honesty and openness would win her over. Clutching my handcrafted leather tote, I stepped inside their home, ready to build a future. I had no idea how wrong I was. The Sullivan dining room gleamed with polished wealth, crystal chandeliers, a mahogany table that looked imported from a castle. But the air was thick with something cold and heavy. I offered a warm smile and extended my hand to Margaret. Instead, she smirked, clutching a glass of red wine. Before I could say a word, she flung the wine directly into my face. The cold liquid stung, running down my cheeks and dripping onto my blouse. There, she sneered, I've washed off that small-town grime for you. Derek burst out laughing, doubled over, clutching his sides. My heart sank, the betrayal deeper than the wine running down my chin. Thomas gasped in shock. Margaret, what the hell? He said, but his voice was frozen. I wiped my face, shaking but steady. All those months hiding my role as CEO of Cruise Dynamics had been to see Derek's true self. Now I saw him, cruel, weak, and spineless. I'm done, I said firmly. The engagement is off, and so is our contract with Sullivan Manufacturing. Margaret's smirk faltered. Derek's laughter died instantly. Thomas paled, knowing my company's contracts were his business's lifeline. You can't do that, Margaret snapped. I stepped forward, locking eyes with her. I'm Elena Cruz, CEO of Cruise Dynamics. We were your biggest client, 40% of your revenue, or we were... Derek's jaw dropped. He worked at his dad's company and knew my firm's name well. Margaret's hand trembled, her wineglass clinking against the table. Thomas stammered, Alina, please, let's talk. But I was done. The ache in my chest fueled my resolve. I built my life on authenticity, and I would never let their cruelty define me. I turned, wine-soaked but unbroken, and walked away, leaving their stunned silence behind. Back at my Denver office, I faced Thomas Sullivan's desperate emails, but my decision was firm. Cruise Dynamics had supported Sullivan Manufacturing for years, and I laid it all bare. Your company's outdated methods are sinking you, I told Thomas during a tense call. High turnover, inefficient workflows. Our board was already considering other partners. My voice was steady, but my heart ached. I'd trusted Derek, hoped for a true partner, only to find a man-child echoing his mother's cruelty. Margaret's outburst wasn't just personal, it was a symptom of their family's deep dysfunction. Thomas admitted their business was hemorrhaging, and that he'd hoped my engagement to Derek would secure the deal. I misjudged, he said quietly. Derek, silent on the call, hadn't known my CEO role, though he'd recognized our company logo on his father's contracts. His ignorance didn't excuse his laughter. Margaret raged in the background, calling me manipulative. I hung up, her voice still echoing in my mind. I thought of my parents back in Colorado Springs, how they'd cheer my strength but mourn my pain. Losing Mia taught me to guard my heart fiercely. Yet I'd let Derek in, only to be humiliated. The business fallout wasn't revenge, it was survival. Cruise Dynamics couldn't tether itself to a sinking ship, and I couldn't build a life with someone who saw me as less. As I stared out over the Denver skyline, my resolve hardened. 5 months later, Sullivan Manufacturing collapsed under its own weight. Thomas resigned, taking responsibility for years of mismanagement. A new CEO, a sharp former VP, cut family ties and launched innovations. Industry buzz hailed the turnaround, and I considered restoring contracts, but trust had shattered. My heart, though, was healing. Margaret and Derek's world unraveled. Thomas divorced Margaret, splitting assets, leaving her alone in a modest apartment. Derek, jobless and lost at 40, leaned on her bitterness. Rumors swirled of fights. Eventually, Margaret left him, retreating to solitude. His downfall wasn't my doing, it was the consequence of their arrogance. Back in Denver, I poured myself into Cruise Dynamics. Our growth was steady, my team fiercely loyal. The sting of betrayal lingered, but I felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying. 3 years later, I'm thriving. Cruise Dynamics is stronger than ever. Our reputation's soaring as we secure major clients nationwide. I've swapped late-night coding sessions for early morning hikes in the Rockies, my legs stronger from scaling steep trails. I volunteer at a Colorado Springs community center, teaching kids from families like mine how to code. Their eager faces remind me of my own hunger to rise above. My parents, proud but never pushy, support my choice to stay single. "You're enough," Mom says, and I believe her. I once thought love might complete me, but Derek's betrayal showed me otherwise. His laughter, Margaret's wine throwing, those moments revealed a truth I'd ignored. I don't need someone else to define my worth. My Denver apartment, with its view of the city lights and shelves full of well-worn books, feels like home. I blast alternative rock, cook meals for one, and find joy in the small things. A sunrise hike, a perfect line of code, a kid's grin when their program runs. Sometimes I wonder about love, but not now. Maybe in my 60s, after I've lived more of my story, I'll risk my heart again. For now, happiness is mine to build. I think of Mia, how her loss shaped me, and feel her spirit in every step I take. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine. Hard-won, authentic, and full of possibility. That wine-soaked night? It was a turning point. I walked into the Sullivan home, hoping for family, but left with something better. Clarity. Derek and Margaret's cruelty stripped away my doubts, revealing the strength I'd built over years. Losing Mia at 15 taught me to fight for my place in the world. That night I reclaimed my voice, my worth, and my future. I don't hate Derek or Margaret. Their lives unraveled because they valued status over substance, a lesson I'll never forget. Thomas, now retired, sent me a letter last year, apologizing once more. He's trying to raise Derek into the man he never truly was. I hope they find peace. As for me, I'm not looking back. My days are full. Leading my team, hiking mountains, mentoring kids. Love may find me one day, but it won't define me. Happiness is a choice, one I make every day, rooted in the life I've built and the person I've become. To everyone who's followed my story, thank you. If it moved you, hit subscribe and join us, where every challenge shapes a story of resilience, heart, and new beginnings. Keep forging your own path. I'll meet you at the summit. If Elena's journey of strength and resilience has touched you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment to share your support or advice. Life throws challenges, but we grow stronger when we stand tall. What's your secret to staying true to yourself? Let's inspire each other to keep fighting.